Welcome to Watching the Throne.
A lyrical analysis of Kanye West.
My name is Chris Lambert.
My name is Travis Bean, and I feel good. Ooh, gosh. Nice little vacation I just had. Chilled out, did some hiking. What'd you do?
I just made a lot of Kanye content.
Oh, you don't say.
And then went to a baseball game in Cleveland.
You got to see Ohtani pitch?
Just hits.
Oh,
which
just hit.
He got a single, so got to witness that. But more importantly, I got to see Cleveland win. You know?
Hell yeah. They could use a win right now.
Yeah, we could use a bunch. It's just a bunch.
Any chance of them catching the Yankees in the wild card standings?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that the Indian season is done. Even our manager, Terry Francona, just bailed. He was like, you know what? I'm done for the year. See ya.
Did he quit?
He just said for health reasons he's stepping away for the rest of the year.
Oh, gosh. Whoa,
I know.
Weird.
Yeah, we're currently 7.5 games back from the Yankees, which, I mean, I guess it's possible
Yeah, that's
that
tough.
we catch up if we go on a win streak, but our bullpen's garbage, and yeah.
Gosh, even the Cardinals are finally full strength with their rotation and everything. And they're like 4.5 games back, but even 4.5 feels like a lot to make up. So 7.5 is rough.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then in the Central Division, they're 12 back. That's
Well,
crazy.
yeah, they won't catch the Brewers.
I didn't realize the Brewers were doing so well, but 4.5, yeah, 4.5 against like the Dodgers and Cincinnati especially.
Yeah, so I'm not holding out too much. I'd rather them make the playoffs when they're like full strength, so not too worried about it.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't even want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs are for losers.
I feel like, but just like the Cardinals are in the home stretch of their playoff run, I feel like we're in the home stretch building up to our Donda season.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, there's a different energy with Kanye going to Chicago, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Having the Chicago listening party, which it got announced while you were on your vacation.
Yeah.
So we haven't even really gotten to talk about it.
No, and had to buy tickets on vacation.
Yep. That was also pretty intense, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, because we sat in line for a while on Ticketmaster. It's funny because when I bought Sunday service tickets one time, Lauren and I both logged into Ticketmaster in our accounts, so just double our chances of getting tickets. And we were both, like, right when you join, it says, like, there's 2,000 plus people in front of you. And it just stays at 2,000 plus for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
But mine stayed there forever. And Lauren's immediately went to, like, 1,000, like 500. And it went super quick and it was easy. This time, she still outpaced me. I don't know why she's getting special treatment. I have a Kanye podcast. I should be getting, like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
But it did take longer. So by the time I actually got to buy tickets, a lot of them were gone. So it was a little nerve-wracking in that sense.
Oh, man. Yeah, because all I knew, I was on a plane. I was flying from Texas to Ohio. And we were supposed to take off by the time that the tickets went on sale, but we were just still sitting there. So I was just like, okay, why not? I'm just going to see how this process goes. Sending like not declarative text messages to Travis. So Travis is like, wait, you bought tickets already? I'm like, no. I haven't bought tickets already. He's like, but you're buying tickets? And I was like, no. So we had a little bit of miscommunication going on. But yeah, I got to experience that where it was just, even when it got to the numbers, it just, for a long time, I was stuck at 1,500.
Right.
For 5 minutes, it's just not going anywhere. I was like, is everybody just indecisive about tickets? Is it just so overloaded that it's not moving up? But when I finally saw the ticket prices, I was blown away by how expensive it was.
Yeah.
Because I even made a video like a couple days earlier telling everybody, I was like, tickets for Atlanta were like $30 to $70. So I'd expect that to be the same for Chicago. And no, it was
shocking.
What the cheapest shocking. The cheapest ticket was what, like $150?
There were tickets for like 70 something. That was the cheapest, but that was like nosebleed seats. And I kind of like, I thought like, oh, we could sit there, and then like I finally decided to go up a little further. Those were a lot more expensive, but I was like, that's okay. But then I went back into Ticketmaster just to see like how tickets were doing, and all of the $75 seats were gone. So like after a while, like if you were in line for a certain amount of time, there was no way the least you were paying was probably about $150.
Whew. Man, Kanye, you just think about like he sold 40,000 tickets to the first Atlanta listening party, then 30,000 for the second one, and Chicago seats 61,000. I don't know if they're going to have 61,000 people in the stadium, but this was the first time that I saw the upper deck being available, right?
Yeah, it looked like they sold out the entire place.
Crazy.
I know.
It's
crazy. It is Chicago.
I know. And so our new hero is Black Mass, who is a producer known for making mashups. One of the famous mashups was Kanye with Michael Jackson. There's Earth, Wind, and Fire with Pop Smoke. And Black Mass recently got in with Kanye's team and has been giving us updates. So the same way that people were like staying tuned into Casey Pluto's Twitter and waiting for these like cryptic messages, Black Mass has kind of taken over that mantle, but doing it in just the way that you would hope somebody would.
Right.
And has been doing like a great job with it. But Black Mass was saying that the staging for this Chicago listening party is insane. Like that it's some of the most like intricate that he's ever seen. It's going to be a full on show. So I have no idea currently what to expect.
Yeah, it's I mean, I feel like it has to be something epic if Kanye's going to charge that much.
Yeah, right. Like, that was the other thing.
It makes a little more sense that Atlanta was that cheap because like you didn't really do anything. So
unless he's trying to like make money up for how expensive the second show was.
Maybe. But like I feel like, I mean, at this point all we're doing is guessing that stuff. But it kind of makes sense. Not that I think Kanye was always planning to not release Donda at those first two parties, but it kind of makes sense. Like you could see the progression where the first listening party is very bare bones and he's literally just walking around. And the second one has a little bit more of a setup. There's a lot of people there. It's a little more theatrical. He's interacting more, playing more to his mom, I think, you know, like praying and like raising up into the heavens and everything. And so this time around, like if this is the listening party before it releases, like it makes sense that it's going to be more of a big show with a lot more going on. Kanye might show his face. He might speak. Like I'm kind of amped up and thinking this is going to be a big performance.
Yeah. And talking about Kanye showing his face, one of the things that he posted several things on Instagram yesterday, and one was a photo of his mask on the floor, and he's standing in front of it. And of course, there's a way to read into it that he just thinks it was a cool photo to have the mask on the floor
and
it
was
a picture
cool
of
photo.
it. It looks awesome. But the other way of looking at it is that he is showing that the mask is off, that he is now ready to reveal his face. And there seems something very theatrically fitting about that, especially one of the big things I think in life in general, just human psyche, but especially in arts and narrative art, is the rule of threes, where having one thing is okay, having two things tends to be a little more dynamic, but for some reason having three things tends to satisfy us a little bit more. So you can kind of see that in a lot of kids' stories. You can see it in just basic TV structure. Like someone might be like, take a guess, and you do one guess, you do two guesses, and then after the third guess, you expect the person to tell you. There's just something about threes that feels fitting. So Kanye having the third stadium listening show, it feels right that it should be the finale, but it also feels right in the sense that he would take the mask off at this point, that he's ready to like go back to himself. And this ties into even the Yeezus tour, right? During the Yeezus tour performance, Kanye would wear these Mason Margiela masks for most of the show, like 4 of the 5 acts that made up the concert set list. And then in the fifth act, he would take his mask off, or well, Jesus would come out.
Right.
And Kanye, standing in front of Jesus, would take the mask off, and for the first time, you would see his face. And he'd perform the last act, which is the most uplifting and the most hopeful, as just himself. So you wonder if there's kind of something similar going on.
Yeah, I definitely think so. It definitely helps that, I mean, what you just discussed, the whole Jesus show, like we actually have something tangible we can grab onto and see Kanye's done it before. And really at that moment in the show where it's a 5 act structure, and in that final act, it's him finding like him something on the other side of something and like ready to grow and move on. That's definitely what this feels like. Like he's has his face covered up, like he's got this whole album that it's going to be about getting back in touch with his mom and the things his mom taught him and being true to himself. I can see all that lining up with the way he's acting too. Like that's why having that whole Jesus performance is nice. Is like you can actually see that unfolding in a previous artistic thing he did, and now we're seeing it here, and it's like I can actually start to see what he could be doing with Donda and what he's trying to express with all the mass stuff and revealing himself and going back home and getting back to his roots. Like it's starting to solidify a lot of what Kanye had been doing in my mind.
Yeah.
Especially thinking about his Instagram posts. Maybe we want to go through those one by one actually, but it's been kind of cool, like the progression of that and what his energy has been, because at first I was very confused by like all the Drake stuff, which we will also talk about, I imagine, and how aggressive he had been, because I think of Kanye now, you know, his reconnection with God, getting back in tune with himself. Like I don't think of Ye, Kids See Ghosts, and Jesus is King as like hard albums. They feel like somebody who's trying to find peace, and all the Drake stuff doesn't really feel like that. It feels like somebody who's like trying to pick a fight, and it really confused me at first. But now that I'm thinking about like all of the mass stuff and the aesthetics, the colors, the tones, the movies he's referencing, the music he seems to be inspired by, like I'm actually starting to feel like I understand what Kanye's going for, and I'm just so interested to see what he's going to do with the Chicago show, and if it really is like a final performance before the album's released and we finally get a full picture of what he's going for. I just feel like it's all coming together and starting to solidify, and I don't know. Kanye's doing a thing. Like I got this energy right now where I'm like, Kanye's doing something like so epic and like so, I don't know. I'm just so hyped for it. I love everything he's doing, and I feel like it's all going to coalesce.
Yeah, that's the thing that's kind of wild to me is, as you said, it's hard to imagine that Kanye knew up front that he wasn't going to release the album on July 23rd, that he wasn't going to release it on August 6th. But then at the same time, it feels like how things have progressed fit together so well. Like the developments from the first listening party to the second, and the second to the third, it really does feel like this entire rollout is coming to a head, and that without what we're kind of getting aesthetically in the lead up to the Chicago listening party, things wouldn't feel as complete. I don't know. And is that just the power of Kanye to pivot and integrate and make things feel connected? Is it us being psychotic and just finding connections in things that were completely desperate or disparate? Or is it that Kanye really did know that he's going to miss release dates because it just builds hype and expectation, and this has all been like his plan from the get-go?
Yeah, that's what I love about Kanye is I don't necessarily think it's all so planned out, but I also don't think it needs to be. We've talked a lot about that in the show, you know, how for Tyler's new album, like the whole rollout was very planned, and it came together like so well because like he planned it to. Like, of course it did. Like it all felt of one, and you really got the tone of his album before it even released. Like it's a very good marketing move to plan things out like that. And I just don't think that's really what Kanye does. I think Kanye is on a certain energy, And he's such an open stream of consciousness kind of person that he just flows with that energy the whole time. And so by the end of a rollout that takes, this long, over a month now, with all the delays and all of the references we're seeing him do, all of the signals we've gotten from people in his camp, like it all feels of one, just like what Tyler does. It's just a little more erratic because that's what Kanye does.
Yeah, it's always a little more erratic, or my preferred word, chaotic.
But I feel like it's worked in Kanye's favor, because while people are going to get annoyed with him and like they want him to do the planned thing, like they just want the music and they want something easy and digestible. To me, this is the beauty of Kanye and being a Kanye fan, is that he's just like he's giving it his all. Like, he's giving you everything. He's completely open and unabashed, and he clearly like loves ambient music and art house animation right now. So like that's just part of like what he's giving you. And he's got this like really aggressive energy. Like, it all is just coming together at once in a way that's defining this era of Kanye and the tone of this album. Like I think it's awesome that he takes this approach.
And talk about the aggression that seems to be, I mean, that's kind of the energy that's really come in during the Chicago portion of things, because for Atlanta, I don't think any of us really knew what to expect until he started posting like Spider Yay and the darker clothes and him in the empty stadium, and you got this sense of epicness. And then he came out wearing the Akira outfit, the Canada outfit for that listening party. And then ahead of the second listening party, it was a little more intense because Kanye's wearing like the bulletproof vest and he's lifting weights in front of the camera. And it just felt like there was a more of an edge that was brought into it.
Yeah.
And you really did have some creepier moments with the performers that were kind of circling around his bedroom setup. You had Kanye covering himself in the coats and running around, which was also like silly, but also creepy in some ways. Mm-hmm. It felt like something from like a Japanese horror movie that you might see. And then at the end, kind of that amazingness of him lifting into the air, the ascension. But we don't talk about the details of that, but the ascension of Kanye going into the air. And now we have this darkness that's kind of crept in a little bit to some of the Instagram posts. Like, you had the render of his house, his childhood home in Chicago, that light blue house that so many of us have seen, that Quavo called Bando, right? Mm-hmm. And then he posted, well, if we ignore the Drake posts, but yesterday he posted himself in this dark complex, which it's just kind of this big concrete space. You can see the concrete floor, dark lighting. You don't really know a lot of the surrounding visuals, and the camera's behind him, and it seems like he's walking through it. And then you have a photo of him standing still, and then you have a photo of him walking back towards the camera with his hand on his head. And there's just something a little more gothic in this imagery, a little more lost. It kind of makes me think of streetlights in some way. He is wearing some, what's his name again? ASAP Bari pants. They're these endless brand pants that Bari's putting out. So it might just be that Kanye was doing a fashion shoots for Bari, but it's also possible that it was also something Kanye wanted to show for the aesthetic of Chicago. And then we had this tattoo that he posted. That's this black and white photo of a tattoo on a guy's back. And I didn't do the YouTube video on this right now, so I have no idea what it is. I know I saw some people on Twitter saying that it's like the rock of something, and it has some kind of, it's clearly like biblical and religious, but it has some kind of meaning to it that's well known. So Kanye kind of channeling that, but keeping this darker black and white aesthetic for it, rather than using this colorful illuminated Bible picture or something. And then having it on someone's body feels very meaningful as well. And then he posted The Ravishing of Frankenstein by George Schweizable. I can't say his name.
No one knows how to say it.
Yeah. I watched a YouTube video where George introduces himself and he's just like, George Swishichipple. I was like, okay, so even he says it. Even he says it. So he posted a photo from that and then the mask. And he just posted, like right when we were about to start this, an image of Cards for Humanity. So instead of Cards Against Humanity, that is a little more outrageous, it seemed Cards for Humanity that would be a little more less fun. But a little more, what's the word when it's for the family? Not humble,
family friendly.
I guess family friendly. I was thinking of something that started with an H. But yeah, so Kanye, which felt like very much like 2018 Kanye energy, right, where he's talking about like not swearing anymore, using positively charged words.
He took that post down.
He took that post down immediately.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the only other post he's really like put up and then taken down that fast, the Soldier Field one he posted and took down within like a couple days or within a day. And then the Drake ones that he posted and took down right away. But of those that I just named, I feel like the Ravishing of Frankenstein one is the one that you're most excited about, Travis.
Yeah, because, you know, at the first Donda listening party, the thing that I was most excited about was the fact that his music really seemed to have some ambient energy, which is not something I've ever really heard in hip hop. The closest thing I've heard to it is from Kanye, like on 808s or something, like something that's very tone heavy, like atmospheric, music that's not necessarily lyrically driven, but more industrial and like a consuming oral experience, which I've always loved ambient music, and I would say of all music genres might be the most important to me, like the kind of music that's been the most part of like my growth and important to my self-discovery, my growth, just like how it's been part of my life as I've transitioned just mentally, my mindscape, like the way I look at the world. And it's always just been an important kind of music for me, because as I become more centered, and I'm going to sound all hippy dippy and shit now, but like meditating and like just really reflecting on myself, ambient music's always been what I've latched onto and been a big part of that. Like I've been able to listen to it as I like just think about myself and shit. And so it was really cool to see Kanye doing that. I didn't know what it meant, and of course I'm just kind of throwing my own meaning at it because ambient music means something specific to me. But I do think generally ambient music kind of has that energy. Like it's contemplative music. It just kind of sits there, and a lot of people say like ambient music, oh, it all just sounds the same. But really ambient music, like it's one of the most beautiful genres because like it constantly evolves. Like even if it sounds like it's the same the whole time, like it's slowly gaining shape and twisting and becoming something new. Like I just love that energy from it. And so I've had that attached to Kanye as he's been releasing songs from Donda, and you've seen the songs like grow and take shape and continue to carry that ambient energy. And now the latest Instagram post, which is the Frankenstein short, which Chris will remember, we got into this movie service called Fandor a few years ago. Yeah. We were on the film festival circuit and we met the people who started Fandor. If you don't know what it is, it's basically just like it's like an art house website. It's like a smaller version of Criterion. And they have all these like, you know, indie movies and everything, but you can find all of these classic art house movies, and they have a ton of animated art house movies on there. And I remember back when we met the Fandor people, I toured through the site and watched a ton of the animated stuff. It really spoke to me, and that was a period I was also into ambient music, and those two things I think kind of went hand in hand, because a lot of art house animation is that. Like there's no dialogue. It's a lot of just like images, experimental movement. Again, more hippy dippy shit. And and I've always really just enjoyed that. And of course, the Rapture of Frankenstein is one of the bigger movies in like the history of art house animation. That director George Wijapol, I didn't even remember what his name was before Kanye posted that photo on Instagram. But he's really big in that community as well, and this is by far his biggest movie. And I remember watching it way back when, and I didn't even realize actually that Oneohtrix Point Never, who is an ambient artist, uses an image from this animated short as an album cover. It's funny to me that I never made that connection. It's also funny to me that back when I was really into ambient music, I really didn't like Oneohtrix Point Never that much. But I rediscovered him and like really started to like him after I watched the movie Good Time, which was directed by Peter and Josh Safdie, and which is stars Robert Pattinson. They also directed Uncut Gems, and Oneohtrix Point Never did the music for both of those movies, and I fucking love both of those movies. And I would say both of those movies kind of are capturing what I want from ambient music. So all of that was coalescing at once. Like their movies are very much focused on the like a state of mind, and they're very good filmmakers in the sense that they want to capture the mindscape of their characters. And while their movies are like fast paced and feel over the place, they're also very contemplative. And there are a lot of moments where you feel like very intimately close with the character. So that said, like all of that stuff that I love and has been such an important part of my life, like I'm now seeing Kanye directly reference with these Instagram posts. And it's just, again, supporting this idea that like I think Kanye's into ambient music after the first Donda listening party, and now it really feels like he is. And I think getting back to Kanye and him becoming more connected with God and feeling more peaceful and not doing the kinds of things where you showed Drake's address and sent him threatening text, which like, like at first I was like, why is Kanye doing this? Like, this seems so weird. After he posted that image from the Rapture of Frankenstein, and I thought more about the ambient stuff, like it made more sense to me, because I think at first I was just applying my own relationship with ambient music and this kind of art. I was applying that to Kanye because I remember I think of all of this kind of music as I got very centered, and I was all about peace and like finding yourself and not putting things on other people, no negative energy, like all of this stuff that was important to me. But that isn't necessarily what ambient music is. It's more about like finding yourself and reflecting on yourself and channeling something that helps you in that moment. And when I think about it that way, like it doesn't really, I don't need to put it on Kanye to be like this peaceful dude who doesn't beef with Drake. Like this to me is very Kanye. It's like such a Kanye thing to do, for him to like not take shit from Drake, or I don't know, whatever their beef is at the moment, but obviously he feels compelled enough to act like this towards him. He feels hurt or slighted in some way. And so when I look at the whole Donda rollout, and I think about the energy Kanye's been giving off, like while he is getting back to God and while he is making this connection with Donda, it doesn't have to be like this overtly positive thing. Like it's just Kanye. Like it's him getting in tune with himself and working through things and just being open and vulnerable. And like, and I feel like this is just part of it. Like this is just Kanye working through these things, being unabashed, not needing to just be the like nice little religious boy who's connected with God, like, which I think is more of the energy he gives us off on Jesus is King, where he has like a Christian report card and he can do and can't do certain things. I feel like he's becoming just more of himself and thinking more about the kind of person his mom raised. And thinking back to all of the Donda quotes we're hearing on the album, and how, well, you know, she's like, you know, I am my son's mother. It's almost like she's recognizing, like, I know the way my son is, and like, I'm not going to be somebody who tells him what to do. Like, he is the kind of person that just like speaks his truth and lives his life, and like, and I respect him and love him for that. And I feel like that's now what I'm getting from Donda, is like, it isn't just that Kanye's getting back to being like Donda's nice little boy who's nice to everybody. Like, he's getting back to who he is, like who his mom raised him to be, and not taking shit and just unabashedly being himself. And so finally all of this is coming together and coalescing in a way that makes sense to me, in a way I can relate to actually in my history of ambient music and art house animation. Like, I'm finally kind of now seeing what Kanye might be trying to do.
Which, yeah, all that Drake stuff is pretty wild. And you could make the case, I could see people saying, like, the Drake stuff is disconnected from the rollouts. It's just, the two aren't necessarily entwined because it's more Kanye reacting to Drake rather than Kanye actively wanting to incorporate something. If Drake had never, so the beef started with Betrayal, a song by Trippie Redd that I think Trippie Redd added like the next day. It wasn't with the album when it dropped, and then Drake turned his verse in late, so the song came out later, and suddenly you have this diss towards Kanye, which isn't even all that dramatic.
No.
Bringing up the lyrics right now. So Drake in this verse talks about like, I swear I've been betrayed one too many times, too many to count. And then near the end, he goes, all these fools I'm beefing that I barely know, 45, 44, burned out, let it go. Ye ain't changing shit for me, it's set in stone. Rolling stones, heavy stones, precious stone, let me make my presence known. So it's just saying like 44 burned out. Kanye is 44 years old. Drake saying that he's burned out, let it go, even though Drake is the one anyway. Ye ain't changing shit for me, it's set in stone, which might be like, he's not changing my destiny, he's not changing my legacy, that is set in stone. But there's been a lot of talk over Kanye and Drake's release dates. So that was the first way that I and many other people read this, was he's saying like, Kanye's not affecting my release date. Like, I'm not moving my album release date because Kanye keeps not releasing Donda. That's set in stone already. So you could look at it as more of the larger picture, like my career, my reputation, Kanye's not affecting that at all, or my release date, that more short-term, immediate. But it's annoying, and I get why you'd see that and be like, yo, he said I'm burned out. Like, yeah, what the hell? But Kanye really didn't like it. Like, the text that he sent to Drake in response later that morning was incredibly like severe for Kanye. And as you're saying, like how Kanye had been through 2018 and 2020 in this very like Jesus is king, peace be to all mindsets. Even in 2018, he was apologizing to Drake, trying to make amends, then had some more snarky tweets towards Drake later in the year. But he's never gone to the degree that he went with this text message that he posted to Instagram. And it's a group chat that has Drake, Virgil Abloh, we're assuming Travis Scott's. Kanye added Pusha T to it before sending it. And he sends this photo of Joaquin Phoenix and the Joker, and then says, I live for this. I've been fucked with by nerd-ass jock guys like you my whole life. You will never recover, I promise you. So incredibly threatening, incredibly upset, feeling like this is just another in a string of slights from people like Drake that feel superior, that feel like they're the jock guy and Kanye's just the art kid. Kanye had talked before, I think somebody posted on What's Up Ever, the Jimmy Kimmel interview, where Kanye's on Kimmel and he talks about being bullied and doubted, and he's always seen as this like goofy art kid. And that's why Kanye probably posts this Joker photo, because in the Joker, what is it, Arthur Speck or something? feels very put upon by society. Like society is piling like shit onto Arthur. People around him are piling shit onto him. And it's finally just one more thing being bullied, being disregarded. Like the government shuts down the program that's giving him medication. And it's all these things add up to create the Joker, right? It's not just that Arthur Fleck, maybe Fleck. It's not just that Arthur's a bad person that was always going to turn into this murderous clown. It's that circumstances drove him from a point of stability to a point of an inability to cope. So Kanye channels that energy
Right.
and sends it to Drake. And then follows up last night with a photo showing Drake's home address. And it's the iPhone like places that you've been to page. So if you go to photos on iPhone and go to album, you can click on places and can kind of zoom in on a place and it'll show you like photos from that location. So Kanye's in that mode showing a photo from Drake's house and it has Drake's home address and that's what he posts. And there's been like backlash to this because it's essentially posting Drake's address,
Right.
with then a lot of people saying, well, Drake's address was already known when he built this mansion in Toronto. It was a big to do. It's kind of a tourist attraction. I looked up the address and I saw just all these articles being like Drake's new home at 21, blah, 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 blah. So it seems very well known. And there were people commenting on Twitter like, yeah, his address is like public knowledge. It's like not a big deal kind of thing. I still think it feels like a bridge too far, right?
It's a very aggressive thing to do.
Yeah.
Which
like,
I agree, like a bridge too far in a sense of like, I'm okay with aggressive Kanye, but that feels almost threatening in a way.
yes.
Like I know where you live, which is kind of a fucked up thing to do. But I will also say, and again, not condoning violent yay. Like I obviously you heard all my hippy dippy stuff earlier, like peace, love, understanding. I love all that stuff. And I like that part of Kanye. But Kanye is also like, he's real in a way that he's giving off an energy that Drake would never do, which is why I stand someone like Kanye. Like Drake to me is very well. I mean I enjoy Drake. There are a handful of Drake songs that I absolutely love, but he is more of like a brand to me in a way. Like like I would compare him to like Taylor Swift, which hey, there are Taylor Swift songs I like too. Like they're good musicians and everything, but they have a lot to protect, and I feel like they're in service to a lot of people and brands, corporations. Like they have a lot to lose financially, whereas Kanye completely owns his brand and does whatever he wants because that's what's made him so attractive and why so many people stan him and latch onto him, is that he's just unabashedly himself. And so him like posting Drake's address, just to me, like I saw that, I was like, I don't like that, but like that just feels like a Kanye thing to do. Like he's just not fucking around and he's letting you know he's not fucking around. And in that sense, I don't know, I dig that energy, but I at the same time I'm agreeing with you that that feels a little bit too much.
Yeah, well, and it gets into something like Drake enjoys rap beefs, I think, to a certain degree, right? As most people do. I think all hip hop fans kind of look back on hip hop beefs and get excited by the idea of like, oh, what's this going to produce? But I don't think anyone wants it to go as far as like Pac versus Biggie was going, or even as ugly as it felt like Jay-Z and Nas was starting to get, which they dialed it back a huge amount just as it was starting to intensify. And you have something like Drake and Meek Mill, which was kind of the best version, I think, of modern beefs, where people are like into what's being said, but it's sticking to the rules of a hip hop beef in terms of keeping it to the songs, keeping it about like musical ability, maybe crossing like a line here and there, but not so severe. And then you get to what happened between Pusha and Drake with Story of Adidon, which is just like, oh my God, like
dagger.
He reveals that Drake has a kid, and there were already rumors of it. There have been people that talked about it, but I think in the mainstream, it was completely not really known or recognized.
Mm-hmm.
And Pusha just puts it out there.
Crazy.
And how's Drake escalate beyond that, right? So on the one hand, I think people were kind of expecting like, oh, Kanye and Drake are going to have this like hip hop beef. But Kanye has said that he doesn't do like diss tracks. Right. He doesn't do that kind of thing. And he said it from a place of, I don't want to have bad relationships with anyone. I don't want to be in this circumstance with anyone. I just want things to be cool. But it feels very Kanye to just go beyond the idea of doing a diss track and just say like, no, this is personal now. And I am attacking like you on a personal level, which I think kind of goes beyond the bounds of the hip hop beef laws. Like Drake just saying like you're burned out on a track, I don't think warrants posting his address, but it, as you're saying, it feels very Kanye, and also feels very Chicago Kanye. Mm-hmm. Like Kanye kind of channeling his like South Side, you know, I can get down. And in terms of what you were saying about this feeling like Kanye getting back to like Chicago Kanye in a way, or Kanye getting back to his roots in maybe a degree that the Atlanta shows didn't. Mm-hmm. It feels like maybe he's like playing up a little bit of like, I'm from the South Side, like I'm from Chicago, watch me get serious in this way. And maybe there's a little bit of theatricality to it in that degree, but people are still going to go back and forth over whether or not this is all for hype. Like, are Drake and Kanye doing this the same way that Kanye and 50 Cent did this back in the day? It's just a little more intense than what Kanye and 50 were. But I think it's more real than not real. We just heard reports yesterday from this guy that runs a channel called Kids Take Over that does interviews with up and coming artists in the hip hop space. And he was saying that from sources he had, and he seemed reliable to me. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think he would be sharing information that he didn't think was trustworthy, but that's also just my first impression, gut reaction to seeing the guy. But he was saying that apparently in May, Drake and Kanye were supposed to squash their beef in person. Travis Scott had arranged this meetup between them, and things were in a good enough place that they were willing to meet in person and kind of let bygones be bygones and put things behind them. And that Drake stood Kanye up that first night, so they rescheduled for the next day. And Drake stood him up again. So they rescheduled for the next day, and Drake stood him up again, which is at the time that Kanye starts texting Drake about, hey, when's your release dates? Yeah. Which brings back some bad memories for Drake to 2018 when Kanye stepped on Drake's release date, which Kanye would later apologize for. So I think that might have been the origin of the group text too, that it was a group text that Travis had put together, or that when Drake and Kanye had kind of started talking again, you got Drake, Travis, Virgil, and some other people in this group text, and that's the one that Kanye added Pusha T to. So I mean, I think best case scenario would be it is all for show, because I would like for Drake and Kanye to be cool, to be making music together. That's ideal for me. But if it's not, it really does feel like Kanye is kind of getting back to some Chicago roots. And it does feel like it's in that more gothic, darker vein that Kanye's kind of channeling with all of the posts for the Chicago listening party so far.
Yeah, I don't think it's for show at all. Like like that's why I love Kanye, because like I don't think he does that kind of stuff. I mean, he's really good at marketing in the sense that he's doing all this in the lead up to his album, But then again, I don't think that necessarily means like, oh, he's consciously doing this thing that he knows is gonna, drive hype for his album. I just think Kanye, he's just always unabashedly himself. And like if he's feeling this energy, he's getting ramped up, he just rides that energy, and this is the way he's acting. And it happens to coincide with the album release date because he's getting hyped up for the album release date. Like he's just in this mode. So I think he's just really doubling down on it and not being afraid to be so open with how he feels about Drake and this whole situation. And I mean, you describing what Drake did, like blowing him off 3 times. Hell yeah, Kanye's not going to stand for that. Like that's not what Kanye shows up and like wants to talk. Like that's what he does. And if Drake is going to do something like that, it doesn't surprise me at all that Kanye would react this way. And like you said, like he's going back to Chicago. The album's about his mom. Like I'm looking at the lyrics now for Donda, the Donda South Carolina song,
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about how he's so decidedly different and what he's meant to a generation. And what did she say? We came from somewhere, not just from the wombs of our mothers and the seeds of our fathers, but from a long line of generations who came before us. Like that's such a huge part of early Kanye, is him thinking back on what his family did, like civil rights era, like everything they've always fought for. Like Kanye, he fights for something. He really stands for something, especially if he's trying to channel Donda, and that's the energy he's been giving off. Again, like it all is starting to feel coalesced in a way that makes sense to me. Like it's not just Kanye putting on an act and like acting aggressive for no reason. Like this is Kanye. Like this is what he always was. And I feel like he's finally getting to this point where he doesn't feel the need to be put in a box or act like a certain kind of Christian. He can be connected to God. He can carry out the teachings of Donda. He can be Kanye without, being put in a box. He's just going to be the kind of guy he always has been. And in the wake of his marriage ending and him going down this new path, like it all feels fitting that we see him kind of getting back to his roots a little bit and finding who he is.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely something that shakes you up to the point of like wanting to go back and reflect on who you are and rediscover aspects of yourself.
Yeah, and to do it all in Chicago, and if Donda's house is going to be part of like the aesthetic somehow, like it just, I don't know, it all makes sense.
Yeah, there was actually, I didn't make a video on this yet, but there were photos of the house, and it seems that Kanye has had work done on the house. It was painted, there were some repairs done, there's a new fence that's there that has a giant D on it. So it seems like Kanye is showing the house some TLC, but I think with that done, it might mean that they're also not uprooting the house and bringing it to Soldier Field. But there was also another post on West Sub Ever where someone's like, I have a friend that like had to be the one that called around to see if they actually could move the house. And when that was not possible, they're going to do something else. So I don't know if you should believe that or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was true.
Wow, that'd be a wild thing to do. Like actually move the house.
Right? Pick it up, carry it to the stadium. And then today, photos emerged of them actually doing work in the stadium. Oh, cool. So construction in the stadium is currently underway.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, what did Black Mass say? Like, bring your tissues, like you're going to cry and shit.
Yeah. Right? What's going to happen?
I probably will cry.
People were like, is he going to have a Donda hologram? And Black Mass is saying like, no hologram. But, yeah, we'll see. I can imagine them like reconstructing that, like doing a cardboard version of the house or something.
Right.
Or some kind of like set version of the house that Kanye is moving through. I mean, you might imagine that he's going to use projections or some kind of like screen aspect. More actors. I can't wait.
You would think something physically will happen because, like we said, the first show was very spare, and then we got in the second show like an actual bed, and it felt like a room. Like it then makes sense that like maybe the third act, like we get a house, we get a structure, we finally get this artistic expression of Kanye rebuilding and something physical that represents him both reconnecting with his mom and being ready to start down this new path.
Yep. And people are starting to put together just now that Playboy Cardi is in the same spot as Kanye.
Ooh.
So Cardi, 2 hours ago, he wiped his Instagram, and 2 hours ago posted a bunch of photos. One, he's wearing like a mask. Another, he's wearing a helmet. He's kind of wearing layers, dressed in all black. But you can see through this open doorway the open space that Kanye was at in kind of the creepy photos where he's wearing the endless pants. So they're in the same space. And then there's also, oh God, which maybe this is unrelated, but Cardi took a picture of some sewing stations. Okay, so they're just making clothes. There's a mannequin that's sitting there, and it looks like one of the like bodies that you see in the Ravishing of Frankenstein.
Oh.
But I'm pretty sure it's just like a clothing mannequin that's used in the process of you make a shirt and you put it on the mannequin, or you measure across the mannequin's shoulders. We'll see. Something's going on. Something wild.
Yeah. We should have mentioned, I mean, we talked about the Ravishing of Frankenstein earlier, but we didn't like talk about what it was. But if you want a good explanation of it, Chris did a video on it that was really cool. And you really went through the whole thing, which it's a very experimental movie, and there's no dialogue, there's no real like characters besides like Frankenstein and his wife. It's a lot of like faceless bodies and shit. But it is a cool, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like it's about it has that ambient energy in the sense that it is about reflection and kind of coming together, and your view of the world reshaping and looking at yourself and how you fit into everything. Like, it's a really cool artistic expression of something mental, like that you go through that you can't really put into words.
Yeah, so in that short film, you see Frankenstein's initial gaining, like the monster, Frankenstein's monster, right? Because Frankenstein was the doctor, but in this case, Frankenstein is the monster. You see these initial like abstract things of lights and some abstract designs that are the gaining of consciousness in Frankenstein, and then he finally wakes up in the laboratory where he was made and goes walking through these empty, like a series of empty rooms that start gaining in terms of materials in the rooms, or like first these shapes, and then the shapes give way to figures of people that are very flat and featureless, but then those start to gain like contours, they start to gain like facial details, and eventually the people are people, except they become reflections of Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein, until Frankenstein finally arrives at the actual Bride of Frankenstein. So you're essentially just seeing his concept of others develop over time, and the concept of the world develop over time as he goes room by room. And as you're saying, it's representative of something that it's hard to put into words, but this idea of consciousness, this idea of the world around you. And when he finally encounters the Bride of Frankenstein, we go outside of him. So that first person perspective ends, and he's seeing himself in the third person, probably due to her seeing him, right? There's something when you encounter someone else that makes you self-aware of just how do I look, how am I dressed, how am I sounding, that you may not be conscious of until someone else is there to serve as a foil. So as soon as he encounters her, it goes to this third person perspective of himself, and she screams, which is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And you just kind of see his face look very shocked. So what is it that you gain all this understanding of the world and like other people, and then you finally encounter someone that makes you see yourself, and they scream? And it's kind of this idea that he's like understanding that he's a monster. Damn. Yeah. But how does that then apply to Kanye? Is Kanye kind of walking through this idea of consciousness? Is he looking at his relationship with Kim, and this is about like marriage? Is it just something cool that he saw and wanted to post? Is it about, as you're saying, like this idea of ambience and reflection and growth mindset? Like, Is it Kanye kind of looking at himself and thinking like, I have been a monster in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
and now I'm trying to do better and move on? We do know one of the main songs in the album is like, I'm losing my family. So we won't know exactly how to apply it until we see the listening party and hear the album. And we might just say, oh, so Kanye just liked it. There's no real connections. Or there might be a moment in the listening party where just like, okay, clearly taken from the Ravishing
Right.
Frankenstein, and this helps us put it into context.
Kanye, we know you're going to be in Chicago. If you just want to, come over and do a podcast and talk about the Rapture Frankenstein, or the Ravishing Frankenstein, and talk about movies in general, we're here.
Yeah, I mean, definitely going to try to hit him up before and be like, hey, we're around if you want to talk movies for a little bit before.
I mean, we know you have
Before doing
nothing
the
to
show.
do.
Yeah, no, you're not busy tweaking everything. But I am going to try to email someone and be like, hey, can we come by? See how it goes.
And yeah, we're going to be there. Like, Chris and I are both going to be there hanging it out. Like, it's going to be so fun.
Yeah, we'll probably do something ahead of once the doors open, right? It's not as easily accessible as Atlanta in terms of the Reverb Hotel being right across the street and everybody getting to hang out in the lobby in Atlanta. The closest things are like the Field Museum and the aquarium. Otherwise, you're like marching over highways and train tracks, and people are going to have to find parking and yada, yada, yada. So we'll probably wait to do something when we're in the stadium, but would love for people to come and say hi. I'd love to talk to you for a few minutes, and it would be great.
Yeah, definitely check out our Twitter and YouTube, and you'll be able to find where we are via those things.
Yeah, we will keep people posted. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good time. I think it'll be a concert to remember.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited.
And I guess that goes over everything that we kind of know right now. We'll see what changes in the upcoming days, but we are T-minus, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 days away from the next listening party, and hopefully 3.5 days away from the album dropping at midnight.
Yeah. And tomorrow afternoon or Tuesday afternoon, depending on when this releases, we're going to be doing a live show where we'll do, an AMA and just talk about the Donda show and get hyped and everything.
Yes, you can find that on good old YouTube.
Yeah.
Well then, is that it?
I think that's it. Ah, man, it's just a waiting game now.
Yes, it is.
I want it to be here.
Which is the least fun game in existence.
And a game you play a lot as a Kanye fan.
Yeah, man. Too much waiting.
Too much.
But he makes it worth it. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I hope.
I don't know. I'm getting some really good feelings from Donda, and you hate to prophesize that it could be Kanye's best album, but I'm starting to feel like that could be the case come by the time of the Donda listening party and actually getting to hear the album. I'm just kind of anticipating that's going to be a legendary album.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not going to have the same growth from the first listening party to the second listening party, but that was such a change up to where it went from okay, maybe I'll learn to like what I heard at the first listening party.
Right.
Because I liked it, but I didn't initially love it.
Right.
And I was like, maybe I'll learn to love it. Maybe we'll get there. But I was a little wary. And then you hear the second listening party, and I was just like, no, this could be a top 3 Kanye album.
Yeah.
And now he's had another month of working on it.
What's he gonna do?
Right? Watch him cut it down to 7 songs and be 20 minutes.
No, it's only gonna get bigger.
Yeah. If it's a full 2-hour album.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'd gladly. He's just here are 40 songs. My goodness. Yeah, but it's the energy and the anticipation, I think, is once again building up after a little bit of a drop after that second listening party and the album not coming out.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, do you have anything you want to tell the people?
Not really, other than I would prefer that you stayed wavy.
Yes, that is ideal. Also, if you can during that time, also please keep it loopy.
Yes, loopy indeed.